Yo, what's going on, everybody? We're back again, WrestlePurists Worldwide, hosted by myself, Joe Hulbert, Manny the Hooper, either of WrestlePurists, your usual cast. Today, we're going to be covering the latest updates on Drew McIntyre, some talk of WWE's broadcasting rights, some AEW rumors and news. And yeah, man, we're just going to be talking wrestling for the next 90 minutes before Monday Night Raw starts. And yeah, first things first, please like, subscribe, super chat, always appreciated. Hope everybody is doing good. Starting with my co-host Joe Hulbert. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad I'm not having to follow Manny, which is always a challenge. But I do. I want to leave with an apology to the WrestlePurist Galaxy. Mr. Sean first, and Mr. Town
You did.
put everyone's meals in jeopardy. Put the health of everyone in jeopardy, and I apologize for that. I intend to make up for this week with my usual kind of output, but leading from the front of him on here. I mean, it is what it is, right? Now I will say credit to Alexia for coming through and making sure that everyone still ate. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
She was bumping
we'll
well, man. She was bumping well.
exactly. And I'll try to follow her lead in that regard and
Yeah,
pick up
man.
the slack. Good shit. But I'm glad to be back, mate.
100%. We're happy to have you. You know, we missed you.
Appreciate it.
Manny the Hooper, throwing it to you next. How you doing today, man?
All right, just tired, eating some meatloaf. Did anybody hear anything during the?
Yeah.
Ibu does this thing right now. I don't know why.
I thought I heard Natty. I don't know if that.
Yeah, I don't think it was Natty, but Ibu unmuted himself while the intro was playing, so I had to mute him again. So it's.
I thought I was going crazy. I was like looking around to make sure like nobody was talking to me or anything like that. But this guy's getting thrown off on the second straight intro. Fine. Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna say that part. But yeah, everything's good.
Who knows where you was about to go with that?
No, I was gonna say what Andrew the Giant is gonna say.
Manny reading the chat, catching me off guard. Anyway, Ibu, backup hangman, how are you doing today on this fine Monday?
I've been doing a lot of physical therapy over the last few weeks, a lot of kinesiotherapy, a lot of stuff like that. And as a result, this is the best I felt physically in about 2 years. I feel fresh. I feel like I could go off the top rope again. I feel like it can do a dive or two, I feel like
you better find someone else to do that with, brother. I ain't gonna be doing it,
Yeah, I got up and the knees are feeling like very mobile, and I feel good, man. I feel like I'm 25 again. So can't complain. And at the end of the day, today's a Monday, which means it's Worldwide Day. And it also means that Gunther is wrestling today. And it's always a good day when Gunther wrestles. Just like how it's going to be a good Saturday every week from now, because every Saturday we can look forward to Samoa Joe and CM Punk.
You're fired up.
Can't complain. Can't complain, man.
Good week to be. It's a good week to be back up, man. But all right, let's jump in, man. Let's jump in. But first, actually, before we do that, we got a few super chats. Please keep those coming. We always appreciate it. Darren Walker, as always, £10. Appreciate you. I purchased Slammiversary at Fight TV for the biggest world title match of the year. Nick Aldis versus Alex Shelley. I know Joe can't wait for it, and Ibu and Manny are big Aldis fans too. Hey, man. Big business in the Impact world right now. Joe,
yeah.
You got your ticket?
Well, it's. I'm not going to overreact to this because this is just a stop along the way, right? This was our one more road to cross, and the 8-4-1 match. They try to throw a hurdle ahead of us on the road to the goal. That's not usually our domain. We're traditional professional wrestlers, real world champions. We don't use that 8-4-1. I'm not sure anyone is for that matter. We got the job done, and now it's time for big business, as you would say, Monty. It's time to get the big one back. The symbol of excellence that is the Impact World's title is coming home to Great Britain, and it's
the richest prize in our sport.
It is, and I know everyone's excited. Like, it's cool AEW sold a lot of tickets at Wembley and stuff, but like, just see what the house looks like when they run Wembley next year for Impact Wrestling. Just see. I'm just saying, like, we'll have something to compare then. I know it's not a Dynamite collision.
I know this comes home again.
Yeah, exactly. It's different.
I will be rooting for the rich man's version of Cody Rhodes, Nick Aldis, on Friday for Slammiversary. So let's bring home the big one.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We're happy for you, Darren Walker. Shout out Nick Aldis. We do that a lot on here. Another Darren Cagey, $5. Appreciate you. Disappointed by the G1 blocks, especially with Okada not being in A block as the young guys. I'll still be watching every match though because I'm a sicko. Well, G1's always a pretty good time.
Yeah.
I
You
gotta
got
say
Eddie.
though, no, he makes a great point though.
Yeah.
Like the way they align the blocks, Monty, it does not maximize the amount of great matches you can get in the tournament. And G1 is normally the place where we get a high concentration of high-end wrestling, and it's still gonna be very fun. For me personally, I'm very excited because Monty, I invested very early in a lot of New Japan's younger wrestlers. I watched a lot of I watched New Japan Strong from the first day. I watched a lot of their kind of young Lion Cups and things, tournaments that they were doing with the LA Dojo. And so I was scouting people like Shoto Umino and Ren Narita and Yota Tsuji and people like that immediately. Gabriel Kidd was somebody who hit my radar immediately, right, and caught my eye. And I'm really happy that these guys are now kind of, their pushes are materializing and they're going to be in the G1. So that A block is super interesting from that standpoint. The only thing is, at the top of the block isn't Okada, it's Sonata. And I would have loved to see Okada mix it up with the young kids. But it's Sonata. What are you going to do? But that's the most interesting block. Kaito Kiyomiya probably wins it to then fight Okada in the next round. But other than that, and maybe Eddie Kingston's potential matchups with Shingo Takagi, everything else, take it or leave it. But it is a G1, so you're going to get some good shit.
Yeah, and you'll get someone who you're not expecting or have a really good run, whether that be racking up points or actually quality of matches they're having in the G1. That always happens. So it's still tournament season, it's still the G1. It hasn't been peak G1 in a couple of years, but it's still the G1, it's still one of the better things that happen in the wrestling,
something romantic about the G1, right? There's
Absolutely.
something timeless about it, and on concept alone, there's an appeal. I will definitely concede that there are quite a few guys that in an ideal world I would not have in it, but that's not, it's the way it is, and I still, there'll still be a lot to like about it, I'm not sure I'm going to watch it. I'm definitely going to be selective, I think, and kind of pick out individual matches this year. We'll see.
I'm going to be selective. I'm just going to watch Shingo and Eddie and Eddie versus Ishii. I don't really care about anything else about the tournament, so it's just kind of sad, Eddie's not main eventing one of these shows. But
I'm telling you guys though, keep an eye out for this guy Gabriel Kidd, man. He at a Road 2 show a few days ago, he tag teamed with Alex Coughlin. I think they're called the War Dogs now, and they're in the Bullet Club. And I don't give a fuck about the Bullet Club at all, but it is a way to facilitate a push for Kidd. And what I saw from him, Joe, when it comes to just his aggressiveness, his brash charisma that he exuded, I looked at this and I said, this guy will forcibly make himself a upper level guy very, very soon. Just from what I saw from him, I was like he is exuding things that people in higher positions, in push positions as gaijins, do not have. And so I genuinely see great things in this kid. And when I revisit this in a year, I think it's going to reflect very, very positively on that.
I think what you're trying to say is he's real, right?
Yeah.
I saw people complaining about the new people that are in Bullet Club, but I think all these guys all these guys are good. I just don't know if I'm gonna like all the
I like the individuals. Yeah, it's more. I don't think it's so much just the talent they've picked. It's the more idea of Bullet Club going on in a new it's. I don't know if I personally need a new incarnation of Bullet Club. If they're going to do it, I think they pick good talent. So
it's 100% they just use the name just to because the name has cachet with Japanese fans, and so it's all right, fun. maybe this will help them get over. It is a lot of new faces at once though, so it makes it tough.
Darren Cagey, $2. He says, "Is the Shelly Macklin match worth watching?" No. WrestlePurists gave it 3.74 stars. So make of that what you will. Joe Hulbert, I know you did kind of a watch along.
Yes.
What's your kind of quick take on it?
So the match guide process is such that I've watched the match 3 times. My answer is yes, Darren, but I say it without much you have to see it. It's a good match. I like Steve Macklin a lot. I don't necessarily think he's super well suited to like this type of match as of yet. The kind of extended world title classic, that like a blueprint. And unfortunately, what happened for me anyway was I think Shelley's work is as good as ever, but Macklin throws a lot of it away with his selling. Like he registers stuff and doesn't expand on it. And unfortunately, what you get is a lot of the first act of the match is kind of rendered irrelevant because Macklin kind of lets go of it. So it's good. I thought it was very flawed, but ultimately people are very excited about the match because of the result. And that's a good thing because honestly, it's the opposite a lot of times these days. I think credit to Impact for giving people what they want. And so yeah, I think it's worth watching to see what you think. It's definitely not a bad match, but I thought it would be better personally because I'm a fan of both guys. But Shelley is always worth watching. I mean, Shelley's still one of the great workers. I mean, he's terrific. So yeah.
You make a good point, Joe. That feels like Impact. A lot of times they trend on wrestling Twitter for the wrong reasons. They do they do a booking result that like garners bad will. You know what I mean? And nobody can say a bad word about Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, who won championships on that show. Real quick, I just have a question for you because I've only seen maybe 3 post WWE Macklin matches. Correct me if I'm wrong. His game is very much like meathead, high impact type stuff, right?
Yeah, I would say he is kind of like at his best. He has a little Sheamus to him, kind of rough and tough, clubs guys, physicality, and he's really fun in that role. His best work in Impact, for my money, was when he was kind of the host of the X Division, which was a cool deal and kind of took me back to yesteryear. He's still very much, to my eye, finding himself in this main event role. I loved his match with PCO, but that was an outright, bloodbath, as Manny saw. In terms of the Kushida match in this one, I think you see a guy who has a lot of the physical tools and he's yet to really crack the pace, which I don't think is an insult to the guy. I mean, he's brand new to it, right? So we'll see if that changes. But Impact, I watched the whole show live on the air. I mean, Against All Odds was a good show, and Impact pretty consistently turns those out at this point. They may not be must-see or like buzzworthy all the time. This one was kind of because of the result, but there's a lot to like. There was some good wrestling on that show.
Good stuff.
Absolutely. Globe Wrestling 199. Appreciate you very much. Happy CM Punk return week to those who celebrate it.
Globe Wrestling. Everybody on this panel will be celebrating.
Oh yeah.
Jack Donnelly, $5. Hanger, the real draw. AO will learn someday. Hashtag hang gang or don't bang.
Jacob, thank you so much for the super chat.
Crazy.
Look, man. I play the long game,
Jack Grealish, $5. Monty, I need you to pick me up. Can't find my car. Thanks, babes. I will not be doing that. I'm podcasting, brother. Enjoy your treble win. As if you guys have seen the clips, he's definitely doing that. Devil's Rising, £2. Appreciate you. Summit of Impact. Top Guns, the national treasure.
Oh yeah, it's a great time. I mean, it's a great time to be about TNA. TNA Mecca, we're firing back at last.
Beating the website back.
That would be something to get. That would be a task to give Manny, honestly, right? Like reboot TNA Mecca. Manny would put up 50 with that on day one. That would be incredible. But no, honestly, like with a lot of modern wrestling, so if you actually have interest in it and you go your way to watch it, most of the stuff these days is honestly pretty good. Everyone like tries their absolute best to have good matches, which is like a first in history, believe it or not. So, there's good stuff going on for sure.
And then the last one before we get into our subjects, Mattson84 $1.99. He asks us, better worker, Prime CM Punk or Prime Kenta?
I'll answer this first, bro. Come on, they're not even in the same stratosphere. I mean, Prime Kenta was an animal. He was an animal, bro. I mean, you can't even compare the two, even though I love both guys. Kenta is capitalized for a reason,
See, this is very different. I don't want to have to do this. But Kenta was. I don't want to tear down Kenta. Everyone knows I love Kenta, but he was physically he was way more impressive, obviously, and he was one of the most dynamic offensive wrestlers ever. And I think he probably is the pick. But it's really hard to say he's not in the same stratosphere because they're such different wrestlers, And it's like psychologically, Punk's like he's in his own world compared to Kenta.
What's Prime?
That's what I would say.
What's Prime Punk? Is it 2012?
I would personally say so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be early 2010s as well for me personally, and I think his mental peak is right now actually as a wrestler. And the thing is, it's just very different appeals. in ring psychology and wrestling brain. Look, I honestly think it's different appeals, and so I could see a lot of people on Twitter and probably I'd imagine the chat is like, bro, come on, it's Kenta, because look, he was a dynamo. He was he was so explosive. He was so stiff. Pause. The way this guy would just fucking kick the fuck out of you and chop you and throw bombs, like it's like the best aspects of a Shibata, Sugiura, and some of these guys rolled into this like small man who was just so explosive. So look, Prime Kenta was a physical freak, like Joe said. Never really particularly developed a knack for storytelling to the degree that sometimes I really enjoy, but that just wasn't his game. I watched all his acclaimed bouts in Noah, and look, he's one of the most special wrestlers I've ever seen. So I love both of them for different reasons, and I'll probably just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'd say for myself, I'll probably fall closest to where Hulbert's at, where I don't actually know who I'd pick between them, but but it's because they're so different, Yeah, I don't know where I fall on it particularly, but
Mass
Fan, like they go on, Manny. Go on.
I was gonna say, just Mass Fan. Next time you type out his name, just make sure you put some respect on it. All caps.
Yeah. Like I think it is easy to forget that prime that we mentioned with Punk. He really did find like a sweet spot between kind of he was obviously a lot healthier physically and was a lot fresher. While he was never the most dynamic athlete, he was as close to complete wrestler as he was ever going to get at that point. Like he'd kind of paired his strengths in that way. So it's hard, but I mean, they're two great wrestlers for sure.
The Punk that entered Over the Limit 2012, he's a fucking beast.
Exactly, and that's what I don't know. Beast. I know we do a lot of bits about Punk, but I'm not sure there's many wrestlers ever that are like in a different league to that dude. Honestly, like he was incredible in that run. So,
I've just noticed needs to do a bit of makeover right here.
My God,
there's one, and I'm gonna go with the white background today, people. All right, let's jump into some subjects. So we'll start with the Drew McIntyre thing. So, of course, there was a PW Insider Elite article that dropped earlier on today, and it was, basically just the latest on Drew McIntyre, saying that there's been a push within WWE Creative to have McIntyre back into the storyline mixed by Money in the Bank. Given his status as one of the company's top European stars, that makes the most sense, of course. There was meetings last week regarding pictures for McIntyre's return. And also, there's been no update on Drew McIntyre signing a new deal with the company, as his current deal is slated to expire in early 2024. We are told a big crux of the current conversations between the two sides are how McIntyre will be used from a storyline perspective, particularly how meaningful this storyline will be. The belief is that with less than a year left on his deal, McIntyre doesn't want to be aimlessly floating when he has already proven during the pandemic how important he can be to the overall company. The belief is that until McIntyre and WWE come to an agreement on how he will be used going forward, he won't be back. Interesting. Joe, I'll throw it to you first. You can kind of pick where you want to start with that report.
Well, it is very interesting because I think this is one where you can like genuinely debate where you would personally stand on it. And like I think there is an objective agreement that Drew has worked super, super hard and is within his right to value himself a certain way, and everyone is for that matter. But in his case, I mean, that dude went super hard for them. He's really feeling it physically, I think, as a result of that. So obviously, with the pandemic title reign and such, there's a certain sympathy for Drew, which I co-sign. But I really struggle with this topic because before we went live, we were talking it through, and it's like I don't know if I can reasonably say I think I would be on board. Like if I had the choice, would I be suggesting Drew to be a world champion again? Would I be suggesting Drew as a main player of either brand? To me, he's a supporting character, and that's where you get into a really awkward situation in terms of what his value is, right? Because it's like we all agree on Drew's talent. No one's saying he's not a good wrestler. I mean, he's a great wrestler, but is he? I hate to use this term, but is he damaged goods in some ways as a top guy? Like, you can't just erase yesterday, and Cardiff happened, and I'm not saying it was a career killer, but we're now nearly a year removed from it, and it's like, do you want to commit to rebooting Drew as a top guy when he is physically worn down and beat up? Or would you rather go with a fresh face? That is, to me, the question when it comes to what Drew's value is. And I think that's an interesting debate. I don't think there's a right or wrong necessarily. I just think it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one, really, isn't it? Because you've kind of got a way of where WWE might see him, and of course, all the factors that you just mentioned are kind of the things that you would expect them to consider, especially with them being WWE. So it puts him in a tough place. And I was saying before we went live, I do think there is actually a real possibility that he does leave WWE. Because I think he finds himself in a weird position, which you quite well described. He's kind of, like nobody's like clamoring for him to be the world champion, like even like the word for Seth before he won the world heavyweight title. But at the same time, I think he's too good to be kind of like an upper mid carder. But then there's a baggage that he comes with, such as the injuries, etc., etc. It's really tough. Ibu, where do you find yourself on the Drew McIntyre scenario?
When Drew has a good night, man, he's still terrific, and we were reminded of this at WrestleMania. He's a guy that sometimes I don't want to say I take for granted or forget, but like, I mean, in the last calendar year or so, I mean, the guy's messing around with Madcap Moss and Corbin, and you just kind of forget how good he is. And then, excuse me, he goes in there with Drew McIntyre, with Sheamus and Gunther. I mean, and look, the match got 5 stars. He was terrific in that, and he wrestled his fucking ass off. Like, he wrestled like he had a death wish. You know what I mean? And look, it is true. Drew McIntyre is prone to rampant illness. He has missed a lot of TVs this year from being sick. Drew McIntyre has a really bad neck that he never properly rehabbed last year, and just kind of thugged it out like an old school wrestler. Drew McIntyre is somebody who is in creative limbo because of everything that you just described, Monty. And with all of that, I can tell you this: like, people in WWE do believe that they'll give him the money he wants, which makes this like really interesting, because it's like, if they're basically saying like, bro, we will pay you, don't worry, we'll pay you, and his thing is still like, but my creative, it says something. And would I have him beat Seth Rollins? Maybe down the line. I don't know if I want him walking into Mania with my world title, to be honest with you. I don't know if I want that. And then the other thing is, I just don't know. And then there's Gunther, right? Would I be okay with Drew McIntyre being the guy to beat him at SummerSlam? Yeah, I would be okay with that. I think that match would be tremendous, and I can live with that. But like Joe Holbert said to me before we went on the air, that's a big rub to give somebody. And
it's not optimal.
And do you want to commit that rub to just reheating a guy who's pushing 40 rather than maybe someone else that you have a little bit more belief in? I don't know. It depends on who else is on the table, because personally, I wouldn't be opposed to a Braun Breaker doing it or something like that. So it really depends. I say all this to say, though, that I'd sit down with him. They had a meeting amongst themselves last week on what to do. I'd just call him to TV and ask him, like, what do you realistically want, and how can we meet that? Because they've done that with some talent. In this Triple H regime, they are willing to listen to like upper level guys and just kind of hear where their head's at with stuff and kind of meet them in the middle. It's been done with some other talents. So I think Hunter and Regal and and Bruce and these guys should just sit down with Drew on one of the days of TV and just say, like, what would you like to do over the next year, and how can we reach a compromise?
It's the booking thing's very interesting, because like, if I'm in Drew's like camp, like if I'm like close to Drew and I want the best for him and just him sort of thing, like the idea ideally would be that he comes back, he turns heel, and he wins a belt, and then you establish him as really dominant again, and you kind of give the same vibe that he had when he was just destroying everyone when he first came up to the main roster. For those that remember, I thought he was great in that run, But again, it's like what Joe and Ibu both said. It's like, do you want to commit that to someone of Drew's age, Drew's physical well-being? But would you rather commit that to someone like a Braun Breaker, or even like, I don't know, whoever else they might be high on at the moment, who's a bit more
Mhm.
younger and a fresher face, etc.
I have an anecdote to add, Monty. This was like relayed to me from a member of Drew McIntyre's camp, actually. That he's very aware of where he stands and how he's perceived and how he comes off and where he is in the food chain, and that's a major reason for his hiatus. And it was almost implied to me that it was partially calculated that no matter what happens and what I decide with these guys, make them miss me a little bit and set myself to where, as we all know, Joe, like everyone's hot when they make a return, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, if Drew McIntyre's on SmackDown every week and it's like Sami Zayn is hot and Cody Rhodes is hot and this guy's hot and that guy's hot, and what's Drew McIntyre's chopped liver? But now when we get into the early parts of the summer and the product is what it is and everybody's settled into where they are, then you can be the focus big story of the month. You know what I mean? And he's very aware of that. And it's part of why some of this is happening, where it's like, let me rest up. Let me make them miss me. Let me make them care. Let me use my leverage. Let me try to get a new deal. Let me try to get better creative. And then when I show up, boom, Drew McIntyre's the story. So
I think it's also worth noting, like, this is one of those cases of where wrestling sometimes can be as simple as beauty in the eye of the beholder, right? And it's like, I don't think anyone, if you do what Monty just laid out, he turns to and beats Seth Rollins. I don't think any of us believe he would drop that ball, right? He would absolutely
No
have good
way.
matches.
Yeah, no
He
way.
would do a good job with that. The question is, back to the kind of the core point of the conversation is he the ideal name, the ideal guy for that role in their mind? For me, he wouldn't be my choice. He may be Monty's choice, he may be Manny's choice, so on and so forth. And it really can be that simple sometimes. So I honestly think, wrestling kind of in the last decade and change, I guess, especially before AEW, that is, it was got to a point where it was like there had to be this firm right or wrong of every choice. Like sometimes you have to just pick, man. Like if I had Drew on my roster, I would certainly use him. Do I think I'd build a show around him? No. That doesn't mean he couldn't do it. He absolutely could do it. He's shown he could do it. So it's hard, and that's why I'm with Uber that the talking to the talent directly is probably the best way to figure out where we stand on this, or where they stand on this.
Absolutely.
To me, this
Go on, man.
Go ahead, Manny.
to me this just sounds like a man that knows he's signing his last contract and he just wants to be creatively fulfilled on his last run. He just doesn't want to be stuck in limbo and having pointless matches because he doesn't have that many bumps left in him. And he knows himself that he doesn't have these epics left in him. So I mean, he's probably looking at the horizon or whatever, and he's just trying to see where he's going to go.
Right.
But personally, I think I've been saying since this news came out that he was going to leave. So I don't know. I feel like he's already done everything he can in WWE, especially when they don't want to give him the title, even though there's so many other people deserving of it.
It's interesting, Manny, because a source in the company did tell me right after Backlash that they wanted him at TV, the Raw after Backlash, to be in that new tournament. And they basically said, like, hey, we want you at TV, we want you in the tournament, we want you to go heel. And, this source basically said to me that Drew's stance was, where does this go? Basically, like, where's this going? And because he didn't get a concrete answer, he was like, fuck that.
Then if I'm Drew, I'm looking at what's going on. And I know that not everybody can do it, but Tony would obviously sign him. And then if you're looking at what's going on in AEW, where you're going to have a clear divide on shows, there's a wide opening for on whatever show he's going to be on, especially like, I don't know, whatever he wants to go to.
He could also, there's guys in AEW that wrestle a match a month.
Yeah.
Physically, that would be a treat for him. Like, I mean, I don't know how many matches he wrecked up the last couple of years, but he's a guy who was working all of those shows for a while. So that would be nice for him too. And I'm sure he can make some money doing spots like single shows in Japan too.
I was going to say, I'd like to see Drew in Japan, to be honest.
That was what almost happened. Remember, that was where he was headed. He was headed to New Japan, and then Regal swooped in and got him to come back. So,
yeah, man, that's that William Regal, man.
I can see him do that.
Yeah.
I can see him do that thing where he just works like he has one big match a month for an AEW, Dynamite Collision. Then if he wants to, just work New Japan on the side, strong or proper. So I mean, there's a lot of options out for them outside of WWE.
I don't know why, Monty. I'm really popping myself, and I have been for a month, just thinking of I don't know what it is. Drew and Noah specifically, not New. I don't know why. It's something about Drew just in Noah holding the GHC championship. slap around Takashi Sugiura and then fighting
It's old
Goshi
school,
Ozaki.
mate, you know.
It's kind of real. Something about that idea is real to me.
Yeah, but you know all these guys though when they leave, they just like we have to wrestle in the lion logo. You know, it's just, all they want to do is just New Japan.
I mean, all these companies are more willing to work with each other now, so it could literally say like Drew McIntyre with the Noah logo. You know what I mean? Coming into New Japan, to do something with Okada or someone. Yeah. We'll see what happens with Drew.
Yeah, Drew's great, man.
He's very good. Yeah.
Absolutely. I do think there is a real possibility that he leaves, and if he does, I think he'll have one hell of a run, But at the end of the day, WWE, it sounds like they're willing to pay him 7 figures, and he more than deserves it,
That surprised me.
It would be kind of bad on WWE's behalf if it was like Drew's left, even though we offered him all this money because we couldn't give him an actual, cohesive comeback story, But we'll see how that one plays out. It's definitely quite an interesting one. Let's move. Since we was talking about Japan, we'll talk a little bit about Forbidden Door and the potential Stardom involvement. If you haven't seen our Stardom 2023 guide, which is on our YouTube channel on the videos tab by Jamie Ross, our head writer, really great stuff. If you're looking to get into Stardom, please watch that. But yeah, now I've got that plug out of the way. So Dave Meltzer did he went on Wrestling Observer Radio, as he does, and he basically said that there's been some talk about Stardom and Forbidden Door, and then he kind of tried to put the fire out on it, basically saying there's nothing going on there. This is from Stardom. First of all, none of the Stardom women have Canadian visas, so even if they wanted to do something, it would have to be rushed. This came after the Fightful Select's story of they basically said that there's been conversations between Stardom and AEW. So of course, when Dave went on Observer Radio and said that, it was of course contradicting, Fightful Select have got more than a good enough reputation. Dave Meltzer's obviously been around for forever, so quite kind of a weird conflicting story. And then Dave then done a daily update a couple of days later and basically said that pro wrestlers are exempt from needing visas to appear in Canada, which of course was always the case, and a lot of people were having a field day pointing that out when Dave brought it up in his initial, I don't want to say report because it was on Observer Radio, but when he initially went out there and said that. But yeah, apparently there's no issue with AEW with any Stardom wrestlers wanting to appear on AEW New Japan Forbidden Door 2. Although apparently Dave did say Stardom was of the belief that that would be an issue. So, but yeah, of course, all the start has already been pointed out a few times as well. Stardom have got a pay-per-view on the same day, so a lot of them, basically all of their main talent are on that show anyway. So it makes it very awkward and pretty much impossible for like major involvement from Stardom anyway. But yeah, man, at this point, nobody's scheduled for Forbidden Door on the Stardom side, but apparently there has been discussions going back a couple of months, according to Sean Massac and Fightful Select. So it seems possible, but it doesn't seem like something that's imminently about to happen. I don't know if we'll see it or not. I'm kind of 50-50 at this point. Manny, where do you find yourself? Do you think we'll see any Stardom involvement whatsoever on Forbidden Door?
No, I think the only representation we were going to see was Mercedes, but she's hurt, so I don't think we're going to see anything until maybe next year or somebody else that defends that belt. Or maybe Willow goes over there, who knows. But as of right now, I don't think we're going to see anything this year.
It's a tough one. Joe, do you think we see it happening?
Doesn't seem like it, right? Which is a shame because it feels like such a natural fit. And it's like, it's just a bummer. But I think Manny might be on the same. It certainly seems like there may have been plans for Mercedes on this show, which may kind of explain why it may be more of a scramble now, figuring out what the alternative is. That's just guesswork, to be clear. But, I don't know. Hopefully in the future, because again, it does feel like a natural fit. So hopefully in the future, these events will feature some Stardom talent.
See how it works. I also did mention, Dave mentioned that there was talk of a Stardom wrestler wrestling AEW wrestler on the January 4th Tokyo Dome show. Apparently, this was Chris Statlander, and that was a call made long before the show and before Statlander's injury. So
Wow.
apparently, there was like a long-term plan to have Chris Statlander on the Dome show, which is
That's cool.
yeah, that would have been great, man.
She's gonna wrestle Mayu, right?
Potentially,
I hope we still get that.
It doesn't
one of
say
these
here.
years.
But
That would be sweet. For Chris to work one of those shows would be something. So that'd be cool. It's a shame.
yeah,
it fell
100%.
through,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ibu, do you think we see any Stardom involvement on Forbidden Door 2 in Toronto?
No.
That all? No reason why? Nothing else?
Rossi Ogawa doesn't give a shit about AEW, and yeah, that's just kind of that, you know.
Yeah.
So we might have some women wrestlers that are strong adjacent, you know, perhaps a TJPW wrestler, you know, someone in this, you know, Stephanie Vaquer orbit type of thing, maybe. You know, I think there will be a women's wrestler on this show that isn't directly affiliated with AEW, but straight up like full-time Stardom person. I mean, most of them, if not all the major players are booked. And like I said, Rossi Ogawa doesn't give a fuck about AEW. So that's just kind of where that stands there. And I will single-handedly use this to kind of add this in. Monty, I'd imagine you've seen how I believe it's Bandito and Roosh have pulled out of AAA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people kind of jumping for joy because they thought that this means that it's so that they can work Forbidden Door because, wow, we're not affiliated with AAA. CMLL is not going to be mad. We can get on the card. And I don't know the full logistics of it. I'd imagine it's slightly more complex than that. I'd have to ask. But what I can say is that I feel like sometimes wrestling fans just they treat these situations with like a very selfish frivolity somewhat, you know? And it's very centered around like just what they want for their specific home promotion that they favor the most. And sometimes it just doesn't work that way. And when it doesn't work that way, you shouldn't get angry at the other company for how they do things, because sometimes there's just the reason why they do things the way they do. And with AAA and CMLL, I mean, this beef has been longstanding for a long time for reasons. People have literally died over their beefs, Monty. Legitimately, people have fucking died. You know, there's a reason that CMLL is sequestered in Arena, Mexico, and that's their spot, and that's where they stay. And they have, you know, their limitations on their distribution in the United States and vice versa. At the end of the day, you know, sometimes things are deeper than rap, and it's deeper than your wrestling dream matches, and that's just kind of how it is. And you know, you're gonna have to just accept it and not be you know, a Western fan, you know, crying about it. But yeah,
Damn, you just took a heavy shot at Manny the Hooper. That's crazy, man.
yeah, man, you
Right.
suck it up and stop
Fuck.
crying. You know,
Fuck
you're never
CMLL
gonna see
AAA,
Roosh
man.
on a New Japan affiliated show for as long as you live, and you're gonna have to accept that. I'm playing.
It's fine. I just think it's so funny because Andrade did the same thing last year, and none of these guys learned that it's not going to happen. So I mean,
Yeah, it's just it's a tangled web. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. It's we'll see what happens. I'm sure Forbidden Door's still gonna deliver, you know, regardless of you know.
amazing.
you can't believe the only like luchador representation we're going to see on this show is like fucking Bushi or something, bro. You know, that's crazy.
I mean, it's to hold out some hope, you know. You could get some I don't know, man. You know, something a bit more random. Sean Waltman to AEW, potentially, maybe. We'll see. There's been some talk apparently. Billy Gunn was kind of talking about it on an interview that he was doing, and Nick Hausman kind of followed up with it, and he done a report, and he basically, you know, he's reporting that AEW has reached out to Sean Waltman about working with the promotion, possibly doing something with Billy Gunn. So, yeah, man, that's an interesting one. I'm not sure exactly what, and that's what the report says as well. Like, I couldn't get anything too specific, other than something that could potentially involve Billy Gunn, of course. I don't know. Where do you think Sean Waltman could fit into AEW, Joe Hall? But
I don't know, but this feels like a situation to officially throw up the bat signal for real graps. I think that's what it's going to result in some form or fashion. I mean, I think the ultimate position beyond like what I'm about to say is, you obviously be a really good agent, I'd assume, or coach and so on and so forth. But if you're asking me, Joe Holbert, I mean, he could wrestle Daniel Garcia on Rampage if he wants. I mean, that'd be a fine idea. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing to do. I mean, you could do that for old Joey Bing Bong on a Friday night. I'd tune in. But he's always struck me as someone who would be great as like an agent. I've always been kind of amazed that he's not, especially now. It always felt like he should have a WWE gig, and it's kind of always been surprising he hasn't had one. So, this I didn't know about this.
It's because he's too blunt and opinionated.
Yeah. Well, remember that real graps bat signal I was talking about? There it is, bro. That's there it is. So, I mean, he's a really interesting like piece of wrestling history, honestly. So whatever that dude brings to the promotion, I'm sure there's a lot he can add, and he's getting paid. God bless him. I'd be happy to see that. That graphic would pop me if nothing else. Sean Waltman is all elite with some like 2002 render. Good luck to the man. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, man. Manny, you could you see it happening, brother?
Another match with Jerry Lynn. I don't know.
Oh my god, the Lightning Kid versus fucking.
Let him talk, bro. Let him talk.
I mean, besides the figures we're not gonna get for another 5 years if he signs with them, just maybe they're just gonna do they're just gonna make the Acclaimed more of a DX parody. Probably fun stuff. Fun 8-man tags. I mean, didn't he retire because he wrestled that GCW show? Just never did it again, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I always remember being at NXT.
Didn't he get injured, or was that someone else?
He he got hurt. He wrestled hurt, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I remember being at NXT Takeover New Orleans, and I was on the side, so you could see where some of the guys come and watch the show.
Yeah.
Sean Waltman walks in. He's got his dog, and sat and watched that whole show like he was sitting next to me, like he was just watching the graps. How I talk about how I watch wrestling, don't react at all. Waltman was popping huge. People were hitting higher spots. He was leaping up and down. He was having a blow. It was great to watch. A guy who's seen all the things he's seen. He was just genuinely there watching the show and enjoying it. And
that dog.
That isn't always the case. I can tell you, anyone who's seen wrestlers watch wrestling shows, it's very seldom the case.
That dog must have hated that, sitting on his lap and him constantly jumping up. Look
really chill, bro. They look really chill. They look happy. So I don't know.
Just watching the graps,
Yeah, bro.
Ibu, do you see Sean Waltman, the former X-Pac, adding some value to All Elite Wrestling?
In guest appearances that are just meant to be cute and brief, but joyous and celebratory. I like Sean Waltman. Sean Waltman versus Jerry Lynn in 1991, I believe it is actually one of the most influential independent matches ever, and it's also one of Tony Khan's favorite matches of all time. He's on record saying this, and Tony Khan is nostalgic about wrestling's history, and we've seen how he's tried to pay tribute to some of his favorite stuff in the past on his shows, and so it doesn't surprise me that he's tried to get Sean Waltman on. I've actually been aware of that. This isn't I don't know why this became a story today, because this has been something that he's tried to do on occasion before with Waltman. I'm assuming maybe he tried to do it again recently. But yeah, man, look, I'll tell you this, maybe one day I wouldn't hate the Acclaim getting jumped by some heel shitters, and then all you hear is,
come on, brother.
I'm shocked that we haven't seen an Acclaimed DX version of the shirt where the two scissors are like somebody spray painted on. It's drizzling down the shirt. I'm shocked
we would have gotten it on the Raw season premiere, I believe, that show where they had the DX reunion. But
that shirt.
No, not the shirt, but we would have gotten some form of an Acclaimed DX crossover with Billy Gunn, and that didn't materialize. So,
what has been I genuinely been a fan of this when you told us the rundown, so I'm intrigued. What has been the general online response to this news? Have people been popping at the idea of Sean Waltman, or has there been a sort of confusion?
I don't really look, but what I will do is I will go to our tweet right now, and I will read some of the quote tweets. Because
there's a few of them. Waltman has changed an awful lot throughout his life in professional wrestling, and it's always up and down. So I was intrigued by that. So
all right, so if there's something AEW does well, is show the veterans in such a positive light. I would love to see what they do with Sean if he decides to join.
Strong
And like
time.
DX nostalgia. At Tony Khan looking for any old drawing act to bring into hashtag AEW to get hashtag AEW Dynamite, hashtag AEW Rampage ratings up, laughing face. Has he called the ding dongs?
Well, that probably covers. That's fair enough. Whenever that goes a good kind of range.
The duality of wrestling,
Yeah.
you know.
You know, it's
Good
funny, Joe.
scam.
I saw a lot of people quoting like the report on like, I don't know if it was Monty's, but one of the other news pages, just kind of like I saw people quoting it, kind of just basically saying like, what happened to AEW, and what happened to the game I love, and what happened, and so definitely a mixed response. You know, definitely.
Tony's always been super nostalgic. I don't want to get into that whole conversation, but like this is 100% a Tony Khan move of 2021. This is Tony Khan. He loves that shit.
He brought Hooven to
Yeah, there's narratives now. Fans have kind of
People
thought
have
up.
lost the plot with this.
You know what I mean? So
Dynamite's fucked. AEW's fucked, bro. I see it all the time on Twitter, man. You know,
But like
the old AEW.
I don't even need to really go that conversation. It's more like the specific, like Tony Khan is booking a legend. He's finished. It's like he's always done that shit.
You know what it really is, Monty? Because not to relitigate this, because everybody's already talked about this to death in the last 2 days. I genuinely do think AEW is not quite as good and cohesive as a product as it was 2 years ago. But the thing is, I feel like people are failing to identify the real reasons why. And when they try to point reasons, it's stuff that like they've always done. Like it'll be like, there's like interferences in matches and legends now. And like there's always been legends and there's always been, fucking like Crash TV stable warfare happening around the ring for matches in AEW. That's always been a thing.
I don't need to read the 6 tweet in a row. The Elite are the only good thing on this show that's been going on for 4 years. Like, come on, bro.
Manny, you tweet that.
I haven't tweeted that. I haven't even tweeted anything about this.
You literally, not recently, but you literally will tweet things. I've seen you literally say like, I don't give a shit about anything right now. Except
let's be fair though, we have to credit. Manny has been doing a really good job on that front. He's rebuilding. He's slowly recovering. He's doing a great job. I'm proud of you, Manny. I'm proud, bro.
Yeah, man. He's a more layered human being these days.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember DDP wrestle on a Dynamite?
Yeah, it was big.
Yeah, it was
anyway,
my favorite Tony like legend pop was when he flew out Greg the Hammer Valentine to watch the dog collar match. And Greg sat there like, oh, I guess.
They cut to him and he looked so like just depressed.
He was the exact opposite of what I was describing with Sean Waltman, right? Like just like, oh, I guess, man, scraps.
Like he didn't know anything that he was watching, and they're like, "There's Greg the Hammer Valentine," and Jim Moss like, he was a great wrestler back in the day, and he's just like, "What the fuck is?"
What about Dory Funk when they flew him out? Remember?
Yeah.
No, I don't remember that.
Yes, that was awesome.
I forgot what he was there for. He was just there with an AEW hoodie on.
Didn't one of the Crockett's? One of the Crockett's on commentary? And he didn't know what the fuck he was watching. He's just like,
that was the best because Eddie Kingston was on that commentary team.
Yo, that man was like, these athletes today, they're just very.
That was unreal. You know,
that was incredible.
Anyway, though, please do keep these super chats coming. As we're gonna get through. I think we've got like 4 here. Devil's Rising, £5, appreciate it. He's chosen one gimmick being rebranded into an aggressive version, the Unforgiven one, and it feeds into the aggressive notion of the psychopath. That's of course talking about Drew McIntyre. I mean, it's kind of like what we was talking about. It's like, yeah, you could do that, and I'm sure he would do great given that ball to run with, but it's like, do WWE want to invest that kind of time and effort into him with the things that we was talking about earlier? So there's definitely things to do with him. Like, I think all of us on here think Drew is a great wrestler, like, because he is, man. He's a full package. He's got the look. He's fucking great worker. He can talk. He looks like a world champion. He passes the quote unquote airport test. He's a great all rounder, man. But we'll see how WWE deal with it. Cody Willis 199, appreciate you very much. Good evening, pals. Let's have a great week of graps. That we will do, my brother. Appreciate you very much as always. Mazfan84 199. Could Omega have a good match with 2023 RVD? Absolutely.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kenny, man. It's Kenny.
Look, man. I don't know when you fellas last saw Rob, but I don't know.
100%, Joe. 100%, mate. 100%. I'm with you, but Kenny.
Fair.
Kenny would like pop himself with the idea of doing this, you know. So
Wait,
like,
how long is the match? Because Rob can still do a lot of his offense. You can plug in like
12 minutes.
I think a 10-minute.
what, 8.
I think
I'm being realistic here. 12 is like
an
a Kenny
8 to
match.
10-minute match, no DQ, where Fonzie can be there to kind of alley oop him with chairs to do the spin kicks, and you could do a thing where because Kenny Omega got the "You Can't Escape" from RVD, you know, you could do a fun spot with that. He could do the split-legged moonsault still. He could still do Rolling Thunder, you know, at half the speed. He could still do it. He could. I don't know if he can still do the fucking the Van Daminator or Van Terminator, the one that goes across the ring. I don't know if he could do that.
No DQ would help a lot.
So saying no DQ, you can go 10 minutes with Kenny. Yeah.
You've got to realize, folks, if any big like RVD fans watch, you got to realize that I'm the only person in the world who's currently doing a 2010 TNA watch, and I'm looking at Rob. I'm going, Rob's fucked. He can't do it now.
Joe, do you remember that? I think that year they trotted out Sabu, and they were like, "Yo, you guys just run back those ECW classics or whatever." It's like, why would you do that? Why?
Yeah,
they had like a 15-minute plunder match in one of those shows.
He's
like late
brutal in TNA, man. Like Robbie's, and mostly because he doesn't care. To be clear,
he doesn't give a fuck. That's part of it.
Yeah, he's terrible in TNA.
He doesn't take it seriously. I do think his match with AJ is pretty good.
Yeah, it's good.
Is Bill Alfonso canceled or anything like that?
That's a good question, but no.
If he isn't, you know, bring him on the show. You know, just have.
He just
one
books
last
Sabu,
time,
bro. I mean, it's wrestling. I mean, not like
it's
scraps, bro. I mean, at this point,
Short on Spurs, $2. He says this is the guy who put DDP's last match.
Yeah.
Tony Khan is absolutely that guy, you know.
And if you guys don't remember, he also booked Raven to show up in the crowd at one time when.
What?
Yeah, it was. I think it was the same show where Jake the Snake came out and cut that crazy promo on Cody.
I miss Jake Roberts. I was enjoying
his promo. I thought he very quickly fell off after that, but that first promo was like an incredible moment. Like he actually became Jake again. It was insane. It was extraordinary.
What popped me was he got his knack for talking again, even though like his voice was super shot. Like I was shocked at that because he used to sound like, you know, he would be like walking in the muck of avarice, and he turned into like, well, Cody Rhodes, let me tell you something. I'm like, damn, like his voice is gone. You know,
he's
Jake Roberts, man.
He's been through a lot, bro. You know.
Yeah. Shout out to Jake.
I've seen the documentary. You know. Yeah. The documentaries at this point.
Right, the rise and fall of Jake Roberts, the resurrection of Jake Roberts.
Yeah, and he's in what's it called? What's the classic documentary that he's in? Is it Beyond the Mat or Beyond the Ring or whatever it's called?
Beyond the Mat.
Beyond the Mat.
I think.
Yeah, and obviously
you've seen it, Monty?
Yeah,
Jake part of that is brutal. Whenever I rewatch it, I can't watch that part.
A very famous wrestling documentary. I believe that most fans who are kind of into a wrestling documentary have probably seen that one. You know,
it's really good.
Yeah.
The Mick Foley portion was fucking insane.
My favorite is unsurprisingly the Terry Funk. The Terry Funk retirement show that's not really a retirement show. He's like some of the greatest cinema ever produced.
No, Joe, do you remember the part where like there's like the ECW pay-per-view might go off the air at any moment, and like and like the show's happening, and behind the scenes you see Terry Funk's wife just cringing at the violence, and Paul Heyman is just kind of like, we have to cut, we tell him to go to finish, tell him to go home, tell him to go now. They do a roll up, and he's doing a countdown about it because they're about to get off on pay-per-view, and Terry grabs, they're like, give him the belt, and he's like 10, 9, 8, 7, and Jerry and Joey Styles is like, Terry Funk is the champion, and we just go off the
Paul Lee's performance on that is peak. Like, I am the main character. They explain to him they're filming him at the pay-per-view, and he gives like this, like he always gives those speeches, but his speech on that is like a classic Paul Lee. And then throughout at the end of the show, you know, everyone's celebrating, and his voice is going, and he's like, look, man, just as long as the people had fun, you know, if they're happy, I'm happy. Like, who do you think you are? You know,
he's just like, that was a bit of a mess, but got over.
Yeah,
he's
fuck you, you're wrong. Fuck you, we're right. Because this is the dance.
it's Heyman, you know.
He's an artist, you know.
Yeah, it's only one of one,
Monty, you got to watch. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Heyman from 2014.
Oh, that
You
is
gotta-
incredible.
I think I've seen that as well.
bro.
I
Yeah,
think I've seen that
there's
as
a clip
well.
of him talking to Rhino, and like it's so performative art. Like he's like, "You are the TV champion. The
Yeah,
TV
I've seen it.
champion is you. You are the champ. You are the belt. The belt is the monster, and the monster is you." And he's like pointing at him, and like
He's so full of shit. I just God bless. Like, because all of the documentaries they make now, he pops up in all of them too. Like, he always has a scene of like him telling the talent they're good. You know, you don't know how special you are, Natalia. You don't know. You know, you don't. You don't get it.
He also did a new interview with. I mean, I guess it's not new. He did it right after WrestleMania, and it just came out right now or the other day with Rick Rubin.
Yes.
I haven't seen it. It's like 3 hours, so I can't wait to
Bro.
deep dive that.
Bro, Buddy Matthews, when he got let go, did an interview with Sean Rossap, and he was like, "Paul Heyman told me I was going to main event WrestleMania."
Still got it, brother.
It's like, what a fucking idiot.
It's, like I said, man, one of one, Paulie, you know. But yeah, let's dive into another subject. We'll go into WWE broadcasting rights. So, WWE had an exclusive negotiating window with Comcast USA and Fox for like discussing. You know, they kind of got first dibs on WWE's TV rights. That window has now expired. But it does say in the New York Post report that, you know, Fox and USA are still the front runners to, you know, re-up on their rights. But of course, now it means that WWE are free to go and talk and shop around with basically anyone. Of course, it's still very early process, but one of the parties that does have interest in adding the WWE to its resume is Disney, according to New York Post sources. They also say Amazon could be a big player, and Warner Brothers Discovery and Apple are the dark horses. Um, Ibu, do you see WWE moving their broadcasting rights around? I'm personally kind of on the boat of they'll stay where they are, kind of as the report suggests. But you know, Nick Khan could do some. Nick Khan could pull off he could pull off something crazy and get a $1 billion deal or some shit. You know, you never know.
Nick Khan has the job that he has right now because of the deal he landed with Fox years ago. And he does have the reputation of being a deal maker, being savvy, being very savvy. This current wave of international pay-per-views and Saturday pay-per-views, it's a Nick Khan initiative, and it has paid off in hotter B pay-per-views, and it has paid off in bigger gates for shows because of the day that they run. So clearly there's stuff that he knows that, you know, you and I guess are not privy to, or it's not our area of expertise. Nevertheless, I feel like they're gonna re-up, but look, they did make it past the window, and I guess maybe he wanted to explore other options because it's just doing due diligence. I'll tell you this: I saw people saying like if it's Disney, they're gonna be on FX, and when I heard Disney, I was like, oh, maybe ABC because ABC's network television.
Yeah, it does say that on the report. To be fair, it says apparently Disney's thinking about FX rather than throwing them on ESPN, which is obviously quite interesting. So
I'll tell you this:
FX.
as someone with American cable, look, ESPN wouldn't work because they'd be thrown around because of sports, so that's obvious, right? Can't be ABC because ABC has football, and FX. It's technically in a roughly the same amount of homes as a USA Network, but this is something that people who don't have cable mix up a lot because like FS1 is similar in that case, but certain channels, Monty, people just don't go on. People just don't like they're so like irrelevant on the standing, right?
Yeah,
And
FX.
people don't use FX is if you are bored as fuck and you're high and they're running Avengers again on TV and you're like, all right, Avengers is on or something, or Iron Man or something.
Or
Like,
they're running a Denzel movie or something like that, or Simpsons.
Bro, FX are literally Simpsons, MCU, and Denzel rerun merchants. Like that's FX.
Listen, man, if they want to pay, they want to pay, bro. That's all I give a shit about.
Yeah. No. So I guess the point I'm making though is like I looked at the numbers. The average viewership on FX and Key Demo is like much lower than USA Network because people just don't use the channel as much. And I almost get this weird feeling that Raw just wouldn't draw as well on that channel.
Oh man, we're gonna AEW and WWE are about to be matching again in the ratings.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I feel like Raw and FX would do like a 1.3, bro. 1.3 million. I don't know.
What about Amazon?
That's the most interesting thing, right? Is like
Nobody uses Amazon.
Amazon's interesting.
as someone who's not an expert on the matter, the most interesting thing, just looking at wrestling's kind of evolution on TV and such, is the idea of it being a streaming property. Just because it'd be weird to see that, right? Like the idea of Raw. Just
Amazon is throwing money around as well at the minute, man. So.
But it's feasible. I personally, I wouldn't expect it, but it's definitely feasible.
Joe, I gotta be honest. That idea. Oh, go ahead, Manny.
I would say that sounds. I mean, it sounds bad. I mean, like I don't even really see people talking about. I mean, I don't even see people talking about football when it's on Amazon. So I mean,
yeah,
I think it's just gonna not die out there because obviously people are still gonna be going, but I just don't think it's gonna have the same footprint. You're gonna see here on Twitter, social media, and all that because it's just on Amazon.
Yeah, it's weird, Manny, because it's like TV is obviously on the decline, but people have been trying to speculate when the bubble fully bursts and we all switch over to streaming. And people have kind of maybe jumped too soon, and some people are maybe waiting too long. And it's this weird game because at the end of the day, even though as much as TV is declining, we've seen that it declined faster for certain types of content, TV shows, movies, TV series, right? Like that, now streaming is fully the home of that type of content, and that because that's how people consume it. But when it comes to live properties, live sports, live news, live wrestling, that's where TV is still useful, and it still hasn't completely like fallen out of use in that case. And to be honest, as an old timer, I'm almost afraid of like wrestling jumping to streaming for TV.
What's interesting is historically, wrestling is like a crash test dummy for these things. Like if you look through the history of like TV, that's often been the case. So it wouldn't. That's why I think it's intriguing, the idea of streaming, like them being all in on a streaming. So I think it would be more like interesting. It would be positive or negative to me. Manny, what you gonna say, mate?
Man, I'm just a dumb fuck from here from San Antonio. I don't know much about the streaming service and all that, but to me, it just seems like we already passed the point of no return for streaming sites where they all started their own companies and they realized, oh shit, nobody's subscribing to us. So they're just folding into a bigger streaming site. And I think that's the next step we're going at. So I don't know what's going to happen with wrestling and all that because I think the streaming landscape is still playing out right now before our eyes and all that.
Yeah,
definitely. Just look what happened with HBO and Discovery. They just folded into one.
Bro, it's so dumb, Manny. Like
they're not all going to survive,
No.
Bro, if you were to subscribe to like 5 or 6 streaming services, it's like the price of regular cable. It's so dumb.
Yeah, it's like I said, they're not all going to survive, and there's like the list just seems to be getting longer and longer and longer. So, it's interesting, of course, like what you brought up about, like live properties, like they're still holding strong in the TV game, even though overall TV is declining. And like I think the finances involved reflect that as well because live properties are kind of so valuable to the TV game and to broadcasters these days. It's like the money's only going up. Premier League rights are going up. Wrestling rights seem to be going up. Like they go up every deal. I'm sure the NBA rights have probably gone up. NFL, it's probably all the same over there. The American sports as well. So the live properties, even though TV is going down, the live stuff is more valuable. So TV ain't dead, man. TV ain't dead. So, and again, I just can't see all these streaming services surviving.
It feels like if you were putting money on it, it feels like NBC Universal will stay at least somewhat in bed with WWE, right? Like Fox, I think is less certain. It feels like
apparently they're happy. So.
Yeah, maybe so.
Wasn't the thing about Fox though? They're mad about the viewership or whatever like that, or like they're
there was reports that it wasn't what they expected it to be, sort of thing. But more recently, I've seen that they are apparently happy with it. I think it even says in the New York Post that like both USA and Fox are actually like happy, and WWE are happy with them. So
all I know is that Roman's probably going to keep that title for even longer now that all the ratings are going up.
When that quarter hour came in, brother, it was over.
Which code hour for what?
The
point
Roman. Yeah.
What was it, like a 0.87 or some shit?
Oh,
Yeah.
for Roman Reigns. I
That
gotta
was
be
the
honest with
end. That was it.
you, Joe. When that code hour came in, all my fantasies of Cody,
Fantasies of Cody.
yeah, that sounds crazy. Of Cody winning a championship at SummerSlam.
Yes.
I just kind of accepted the way the world is right now. It's legit. I saw that code hour.
You've acknowledged the Triple G.
bro. It was just like, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. That's just the way it is. I was like, all right, bro, we're going to Mania. It is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Hey man, he's a megastar, man. And props to him, you know.
He's the top guy in the business by a mile at this point. He ain't gonna put anyone over, so ain't gonna change. So fuck it.
I feel like him, Roman, and Paul, I feel like they were faking it until they made it when it comes to this type of stuff, being movers and stuff. I feel like when they started this gimmick, they were walking around acting like they were like that. You know what I mean? And at some point, they just became that.
That's wrestling, man.
That is scraps, brother.
That's what the Penguins of Madagascar used to say, man. You fake it till you make it. I mean, just
2020 Roman walking around like he's hot shit, like he's moving quarter hours when he really wasn't, and now he's moving quarter hours. You know, so
Roman's the man. You know, he is. It's just the way it is, as he puts over.
Monty, the fucking Roman Reigns returns graphics, like the Roman Reigns returns next week.
All Roman has to do is just smile and throw up the ones, you know, just smile and wave. There you go, man.
People, they love him, man. You know,
the reaction as of late has been the one when Jimmy said, "I am the tribal chief," and they hit his music, and the crowd reacted like he was going to come out with a gun. You know, and the crowd was like,
the gas and shit, bro. Listen, WWE Universe are all in on the bloodline, you know. And, the ratings, the numbers on YouTube and social media, the ticket sales, everything, the merch sales, everything makes it pretty clear, you know. So,
Monty, one last thing before we move on from the TV deal conversation. Where do we think's going with NXT? That part of it's kind of weird because NXT's a really
USA,
weird.
Man.
She just stays put.
Our more genuine stance on all of it is everything stays the way it is, but WWE get more money, you know. That's
do you not
more
think there's any
guess.
I know they get paid for it, but do you not think there's any people internally like, man, I don't know if this needs to be on TV? I mean, I certainly would be thinking that.
Nick Khan's deliberately internally, now this has been reported, this isn't me playing scoops or anything, but Nick Khan is actively pushing for NXT to grow and become more more viewed and kind of get back to where it was. And his method of doing this is having main roster stars on there. And obviously we've seen that the past couple of weeks. Apparently Seth Rollins is going to be on tomorrow, if we are to believe the rumors / reports on Twitter and stuff. So you're having the world champion on tomorrow. They've had a few other main roster stars over the past few weeks, and I'm actually quite interested to see if Seth will pop a number for NXT.
I am too, actually. I'm curious. You know what's funny about all this, Monty? Isn't this Joe? Listen,
I'm not sure of your intentions, fellas. I'm going to say I'm not sure of your intentions.
I remember.
Joe. Genuinely, I hope he does. Genuinely.
You know what? If he's tonight's Raw, right? If Braun Breaker just showed up and speared him, right, and was like, "I'll see you tomorrow." I'll see you tomorrow, and they say Seth Rollins on NXT tomorrow. I genuinely think that adds 55-ish K viewers and up a little bit of that. But
that's a whole arena, bro. I don't think that's.
I'm just
you all talk about fucking viewership and that, bro. Let's talk about the big boy stuff, the demo. I think I think we can be. I think Seth,
point two.
Yeah, I think Seth can push up to the point two again. You know,
if it's a match, it's a point two. I think if they advertise Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker for the championship, it's a point two. Personally, I got to be honest with you. I'd rather see Braun Breaker fight Seth at Money in the Bank in London rather than them fight in the PC. That's just me. That's me.
Yeah, but that isn't why they're doing it. Which brought up the conversation we're having now. It's about growing NXT's number.
You know what's funny about all this, Monty? It's typical WWE, just going backwards on something they were doing. They were already in the whole "we're making this a third brand" thing, and then Vince was like, well, fuck this thing. Let's make it a development. Go back to being a developmental. And I didn't have a problem with that. They needed to develop talents. And now they're now obviously it's a new regime, technically. And now they're just it needs to be a third brand again. And it's just like, fucking pick one.
Was there?
You know?
Did they sustain a real perception hit with that move, or is that an in the bubble thing? I genuinely don't know the answer to this question. I don't watch the show, but like,
Explain. What do you mean?
do the metrics for NXT suggest that the shift you just described
Mm.
actively damage the perception of that brand, or are they picking up pretty much? You know, can they build where they left off? Are they seriously damaged as a brand NXT, or are they quickly back on track? Because as a fan, you know, like it definitely changed my perception of it, but I'm very much in the bubble, so I'm intrigued.
But they've lost that bubble, which was definitely
the audience.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was definitely a part of the audience. You know, like I feel like they've only got the people left that kind of will just watch it out of habit.
Right.
Because remember, like even when NXT was getting the shit kicked out of them by AEW, they were still doing like 0.2, 600k, etc., 700k, etc., etc. So and now it's like, you know, you see 400k, it's not surprising, you know what I mean? You see a 0.12, it's not surprising. So
NXT doesn't do 400s though. They still like
bro, they have.
Nah, but I'll pull them up right now. Their ratings are
no, because we'll be here all night because
What
you're
was their-
78 years old.
You know,
What was their last house for the Battleground show? Did that
30
draw?
3k, wasn't it?
It was like a little over 3K. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a size. I mean, it's like
It's 3,500.
That's not bad.
So
It's
I
not.
mean, I can't wait for NXT to be 3 hours and SmackDown to be 3 hours. You know,
That's not.
No.
NXT 3 hours is never happening.
Last week's NXT did 615 and a 0.17.
This is what intrigues me. Is like I don't know if that's like actually that different to what they used to do.
It's a little low. Like, look, like Monty
0.7,
said,
no, but 0.7 is good for them, and they've 0.17 is good for them in comparison to what they've done in recent weeks and months. But it's still a 0.17, you know, like it's that's like their high end now. Like 0.17, 0.18 is like their, you know, if it was AEW, you know, AEW can now peak at like a 0.34 or something.
Right.
That's kind of their like range is between 0.12 and 0.18, I'd say.
I gotta be honest, Monty. This Nick Khan initiative is like ill-advised in my opinion, in the sense that NXT's appeal when it was NXT that we remembered made very much like a lot of sense at that time. You know, it was an alternative to WWE main roster. It was a place where indie type wrestlers could wrestle with high production values, and there wasn't an AEW. You know, because AEW now exists, and because main roster WWE is willing to feature good wrestling, you know, and there's great wrestlers on the roster. I don't see where NXT carves out a niche to just be what's up?
I'm reading through the head-to-head ratings, you know. They're all over the place, mate.
They're all
one week they'll do like a 0.15, and the next week they'll do like a 0.27, 0.3.
Man, were you Monty? Were you listening to Dave at that time? Because he pointed out something that was true. That was a period where statistically the viewership, the audiences of NXT and AEW, the demo would shift legitimately based on what the match was advertised.
Yeah.
You know, like if Finn Balor was facing Adam Cole that week, they're gonna do a 0.29. You know, like that. So,
yeah, I remember listening to the Peak Observer years like that. Yeah,
the Peak Observer years.
The Peak.
Come on, Manny. Fuck yeah.
The Peak
Grow up. You know. Yeah, man. Interesting to see where WWE ends up. I'll get a last prediction from everyone. Of course, I've already given mine. Joe, what's yours at this point in time? It's still very early days.
I want to say something daring, but fuck it, I'll just say it stays. It stays the way it is. I think if anything, NBC Universal may get deeper in, which I don't even know that's possible at this point beyond getting SmackDown too. I'll say it stays as it is.
Manny?
I mean,
Netflix or something, bro. Say it. Go on.
Hulu.
That'd be so crazy, bro. It's on Netflix. Like, I fucking.
They just upload it on.
We'd never know. Yeah, we'd never know the number. That's another thing. Like what Joe said about the stream. Well, we wouldn't know the numbers.
Yeah.
Like Netflix don't even give the numbers to the people who sign the deal. Like,
bro, they're
it's
taking
crazy.
away.
Sometimes they do, but
They're taking away logins, not giving out numbers, bro. I mean,
Yeah, fuck Netflix, man. You know,
no
You
password
know,
sharing. It's brutal, bro.
it's
I'm
bullshit.
gonna go with Amazon.
Oh,
I think SmackDown's gonna go to Amazon, and then Raw stays on NBC.
Ibu, first predictions on this WWE broadcasting rights deal.
I think they stay on their channels, to be honest.
Fairs. Kind of got more of a light subject. It's just about the WWE plans for the belts and stuff like that they've been doing.
More WWE.
Manny just nearly fucking fell out his chair.
We're talking
You
about
got you got
WWE
you got a
belts?
subject. You got a subject you want to talk about?
I mean, we talk about how we're feeling or something. I mean, I don't know.
Manny,
Bro, Manny's at a date.
Yeah, right? How are you feeling?
how we feel? No, it's like I said, it's a very light thing. We just kind of chuck it around a bit.
Okay.
Alright, so apparently there's a clear effort to streamline the title belts, which has obviously been abundantly clear with them merging the two titles of Romans, of course, them trying to sort out the situation with the Raw and SmackDown women's titles as well. Asuka got hers the other day, and apparently a WWE source came to fight for, but technically the Universal and WWE Championship histories are still separate, but they said they believe the WWE titles history will be continued once Reigns loses the championship, which is interesting. So it seems like the Universal Championship lineage
done.
is done
Yeah.
as soon as Roman drops it now. So that's one note. The women's tag titles are being combined, which obviously we found out on Friday. Plans in order. And this is when they made the NXT women's tag titles, bro. It's like why? And
There
this
was
is
no-
kind
there
of
was
what the
never a point.
report says. Like, and the NXT the women's titles when they combine them, it's going to go back to what they initially intended the women's tag titles to be, where it was like cross brand. So the main roster women's tag champions show up on NXT and vice versa and stuff. So I was never a fan of them making the NXT women's titles for that reason in particular, because I thought it was cool when like Sasha and Bailey were coming down to NXT and shit. Like that was cool, you know. So yeah, apparently there was frustration because it says undisputed on Asuka's title, even though there's another world champion in Rhea Ripley. Same thing with Roman Reigns as well. There's another world champion with Seth Rollins. Apparently, this has, according to a higher up, according to Fight for Select, a higher up in WWE said that's admittedly confusing. I don't know why there is an insistence on doing that, and a lot of people have brought that up, and it's been dismissed.
Wait. They said they don't know why there's an assistant on doing what?
I'm putting undisputed on the front of the title, even though there's two champions. It doesn't make sense, you know.
Well, Triple H's favorite faction of all time is Undisputed Era.
Is it?
Yeah. I actually do know Hunter's list of favorite factions.
I mean, I'm telling you.
How does
This could be the Horseman, right? It has to be.
I know the exact list. This is a weird thing that I just happen to know. All right. I don't think it's going to surprise you guys. All right, here we go.
Mhm.
4 Horsemen is his number 1.
of course?
Correct.
He likes Evolution more than DX.
Bro, it's his faction. What do you mean? He's fucking comparing his own factions now? Oh, Joe, what's your favorite wrestling podcast? I don't know, man. Late Night Graham, WrestlePurists, one of those two. Fuck, I mean,
He's not
be
like
an adult about it. You know?
he doesn't think DX like so when he looks at DX, he thinks it's like a fun thing that he was doing, popping with his friends like at the time on TV and driving Vince crazy. But when he looks at like the pantheon of great stables, he just kind of goes like, it was just us fucking bullshitting on TV. And so his number 3 is, go ahead, Manny, take it away.
Shock the system.
Bro, Triple H sitting there and be like, listen, man, I got the Undisputed Era above DX on my personal faction standing.
It's all stables that like he has some tie to, you know? Like
I mean, Evolution was literally just like him doing the Horseman, like him just doing a cosplay, like directly. I'm not saying it was bad, but I mean,
He's probably when he's working Evolution, he's walking behind the curtain, like, fuck, man, another classic to my belt.
oh yeah, for sure.
it's funny because like the first year of Evolution feels like the most industry plant shit ever, but then like it kind of materializes into some pretty successful.
There's some good
pushes.
stuff.
And then like that last year, like when they did the Batista session, dare I say it's pretty great actually. It's pretty great. Yeah. And that theme song, oh my god, you know.
So I'm guessing DX is 4, and then 5 is NWO. I don't know.
Oh, I only know like
Free birds.
I only know the top 3, which is just
Does he not have the aces and eights?
I don't fucking know.
Immortal,
Imagine Immortal.
Fortune 4, the main event Mafia.
TNA stables are incredible, bro. Like, man,
Main event Mafia is just
The
I think
music
Mafia
is like
was
an
art.
all-timer, bro.
Yeah, I think
An
Main Event
all-timer.
Bro, Monty, if Worldwide existed back in like 2009, bro, we would devote like 20 minutes to just like what Scott Steiner was saying in the Main Event Mafia promo, and like
We'll all be wearing suits and stuff. Like, you know,
their promos were amazing because like Scott would just be like, those X Division bitches in the back, and then like you just see like Kevin Nash chuckling, talking to Booker, like, this guy's fucking insane, you know, and like Sting is just talking to Charmel in the corner, like, all right, you know, Kurt Angle has no clue what's happening.
You see Booker T last week said he was
Yeah, I saw it. He said, I'm ashamed of my TNA.
That's crazy disrespectful, man. Paying him that money and him being like, I'm ashamed of it. That's crazy. That's
The thing is, bro, Main Event Mafia, like Booker was just popping himself. You turn on an Impact and he'd randomly, he'd just be like, let me say something. I'm like, why is he talking in an accent? You know, and I'm like, I am Black Snow. I'm like, bro, they are fucking with each other. Like, they're just popping each other, bro.
I think that's what he regrets, man, just taking it so.
The thing
the
is,
way
I
he
read
took
the
it,
quote,
you know?
and he's telling the truth. But you could tell he cared for like 2 weeks, and they just threw it in. Like, it was absolutely noticeable.
Monty, this guy's in there with Christian Cage like the first month, and he's working harder than he's like working like it's like 98 Booker, you know, like he's all like he's having these interviews, Monty. Like, I remember he had like I don't know why I have this weird memory. It was like Impact website exclusive his first week, and he was like, the TNA roster is so talented. This X Division, they're taking wrestling to the next level, and I want to help take TNA to the next level and make it the biggest wrestling company in the world. And he's like legitimately trying to keep up with like that type of style. And literally like by like 2008, he's just like, what the fuck this?
His matches with Joe are so like just nothing. He just didn't give a fuck.
No, like, he's just like, what the fuck?
He was even the sort of promos and segments and that, he was just fucking doing whatever, you know.
The TNA front line, some of the chats of the TNA.
Bro, you have Kurt Angle staying in the back with his eyes all bugged eyed, like,
man,
with his neck bulging out of him, just like that. You can see his head.
Yo, Joe, man, he was kind of hunched over, lumpy neck, bulging eyes in the background, just standing there. Charmel is kind of checking in on him a little bit every so often while Booker talks, or like Scott. Like, that was the time.
He's showing his teeth a little bit.
That was a remarkable company, bro. Just an incredible roster.
We need to do retro reviews, you know?
Bro. It's an incredible roster booked by Vince Russo. Like, it's like it doesn't get better than this.
They should arrest that dude, man. Some of the shit he pulled, he should be in fucking prison right now. I'm watching it. I would know.
I know Rob Samoa Joe of his prime.
Joe.
Right, we've got sorry to cut you off, we've got some super chats, man. And we're running out of time, so let's get through them. Don't want to leave anyone missing out, you know. Mads Fan 84 199. Thoughts on Jun Kasai versus Mox tag match in July?
So real.
It'll be awesome. Yeah, it'll be good shit, man.
You're gonna have to take a bath after that one that night, bro. You're gonna be like, it's gonna be a nasty match to watch late at night. Just gonna let you guys know.
Eloquently put more money than we pose away. Darren Walker, £5. Appreciate you. Ibu, enjoyed the Sunday show. Any chance to get Anna on a Sunday? We know she's a big fan of Punk too. Less AO and more women. My feedback for Sunday show.
You know,
you're an animal, Darren. I have to say, man. Ibu, what the fuck are you doing to your mouth,
mate? That's not me. That's Manny.
Oh, my bad. I'm playing with.
Yeah, you're blaming me. Yeah. It's Manny Kendrick.
He was perfectly still. Like, it's causing racket, you know.
Listen, Darren, man, thank you so much. I had a great time at the Sunday show too. You guys are why that show was a big success, and it's doing really well. And look, every morning I wake up saying to myself, "Less AO, more women." You know what I mean? Like that's like my daily motto. You know, like that's just what that's how I
put
roll.
it on a t-shirt.
Put on a t-shirt. Anna will be on one of these shows at some point.
Absolutely. Cody Willis, 999, appreciate you very much. It's a very slim chance, but if Warner Brothers Discovery loses the NBA like it's being discussed, it would be cool for TNT, TBS to be the one-stop shop for all graps, with Max having WWE and AEW libraries, but Disney is probably the play.
Cody, please don't put that out there, man. I mean, I still need my TNT guys out there, every Monday and Wednesday talking shit and playing and talking basketball. So,
TNT losing basketball would be really bad for the NBA.
Trust the process 34999, appreciate you as well. Seems like no matter what AEW does, their ratings tickets stay the same range. Why do you think AEW's growth has stagnated so much, and do you think it's realistic to expect they could reach the 2021 level? Fucking hell, got there in the end. Thank you very much. Trust the process. They're just not hot at the moment, and when to quote Dave Meltzer, which is not something I do a lot when it's not just a report or something, when you're hot, it's you never think it's going to end, and everything's very easy, and everything you do gets over. And when you're not hot, it's always like you don't know when the next big angle or next ticket move is going to come from, and that's just kind of the way it is in wrestling. And one day, it will just I do think that AEW will kind of get hot again at a different point. It's just like, what does hot AEW look like now? Is it as hot as 2021, or is it? Is it a little bit less, or is it even more? Like, can they go beyond that? I don't know. So
I will say, I noticed, and I've mentioned this previously on other shows, like I definitely noticed in my kind of inner circle, folks that got on board when they, when Punk and Brian both came in within a couple of weeks there. It wasn't that they thought the show was bad. There was like a lack of hook for a lot of folks. Like for those of us that are close to it, they post a Minoru Suzuki match graphic. You go, fuck, I'm in. Let's take the ride. And I think they struggled to like hook people that were on the fence, and then WWE is heated up. And for a lot of people, if they have their way, they'd rather just watch WWE. And I'm not meaning that as an insult. It's just like, it's comfort. It's just the wrestling they know. So I think that's part of it too. But
Joe, I literally said that to some AEW fans the other day that I think for some people, like, they're, as long as WWE is like competent, like they're just comfortable with that. And like WWE got so unfathomably like bad at some point that like they were like handing people over to the opposition right at the right time that AEW was super hot and it was new and alternative. And that's just kind of how it is. I think AEW's healthy, but look, I think oversaturation can also be a thing when it comes to running all these dates everywhere, all over the place. And I think for them to have gotten for them to get to like explosive 2021 business, I think they would have legitimately had to, Collision would have had to not exist. And I genuinely, this is just my opinion, I think Punk would have had to like been in a program with the Elite. I think like you throw Punk back and put him in with like the hot
there you go. Like, it's sorry to cut you off, but there it is. You know what I mean? So you never know when that day might come, but CM Punk could. It is possible that CM Punk could come back, and he has a few good months at Collision. He doesn't ruffle too many feathers in the Elite. They get good feedback from other wrestlers and stuff. Like, Phil's all right, man. And next thing you know, the Elite are like, oh, fuck it. You know what I mean? Let's just do the dance, and next thing you know, they're drawing .4s again. Like, that could happen, So
that would create a really great Survivor Series type of scenario for AEW, by the way.
We've only got like just over a minute. Go on, man, real quick.
All I'm gonna say is just hit us back up after a month of Collision. You tell me where you stand.
Ibu, you're gonna be reviewing the first episode on Sunday, I believe. So
yes, I will.
I'm sure Manny will hope for an invite on some weeks. Jacob Donnelly, $5 super chat. Appreciate you very much. Still remember when AJ publicly called Heyman a liar for not delivering on promises he made to Gallows and Anderson. Like, you're surprised. Lol. Heyman's gonna Heyman, man.
That was incredible.
To be honest, for all the shit he pulled, it did get called out. Not that much, really. Like, in comparison, But I think that does us for the evening. So let's wrap it up. Of course, I've done my plug earlier for the Stardom video. I'm going to plug it again. Stardom Guide 2023. If you're a beginner, you see Stardom or any Joshi wrestling, and you kind of like, this interests me, but I'm not sure where to start. Mercedes is going over there. Of course, we talked about the Forbidden Door possibilities. And of course, Stardom's been a hot growing promotion the past couple of years. They're doing great things. So if you're looking to get into it, you need like a beginner's guide. Or even if you're not a beginner, there's still a few things you can learn in there. Jamie's put together a great guide. It's on our YouTube channel now. Go watch that. Give it a like, comment. Always massively appreciated. We have Joe's weekly match guide, which will be dropping probably noon Eastern tomorrow, maybe early. I might drop it in the morning Eastern time, to be honest. So that's all good stuff. Ibu, of course, back again Sunday. Watch yesterday's episode as well. He's going to be reviewing the first episode of AEW Collision this Sunday. Manny the Hooper, follow him on Twitter, even though we don't really tweet that much anymore, but when he does, it's worth it. WrestlePurists.com, at WrestlePurists on Twitter. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. Super chats, massively appreciated. And yeah, man, peace out. Bless.